Welcome to class today. Today is our second day of unit number 2. Today we're going to be learning about memoir writing, and we'll be doing that for 2 days before we shift next week to profile writing. Our lesson is divided into 2 parts, a learning log entry, and then secondly, talking about memoirs and looking at a couple of examples of well-written memoirs. So your article will be in Pressbook, Section 1, Article number 5, excuse me. Sorry about that. As you read the article by one of the slick professors entitled, "You Will Never Believe What Happened," I want you to think of this question before you copy your 2 golden quotes for today. Why is storytelling so vital in our lives? And I'd like the quotes to answer that question. After you've done that, read the article and copied 2 golden quotes, I'd like you to respond to the second part of your learning log response. If storytelling makes us human, reading stories seems to put us in touch with our humanity. What does that quote mean to you? I think it's a powerful quote. Today, I'm going to spend some time discussing in class how memory is a kind of history and characteristics of memoir writing. And lastly, how in the world can we use our social issue to write something that is interesting in a memoir format? So we'll look at 2 exceptionally well-written memoir pieces. This slide goes over some of the characteristics of memoir. Because you're not in class, I'm not going to go into it in detail, but you can read the red and blue sections on your own. Make sure you look over this list so you can kind of get this idea of how memoir is different than narrative. In class, we are going to be watching a portion of a TED Talk by the famous essayist Anne Lamott. When she turned 61, she decided to write this concept of 12 truths that she's learned from life and writing. And as you watch this, I'd like you to think about how we can take things we've learned in life and turn them into storytelling. She does that not in a story. She uses tidbits of information in her TED Talk, so she doesn't really get into all the stories of each of them. But you'll be able to see these universal truths of things that she's learned, how they can become the foundation for a good story of our life, and recording a little bit of history from our perspective. So in class, we are going to look at 2 different stories. The first one is a beautiful memoir entitled "The Clan of the One-Breasted Woman." Terry Tempus Williams is a Utah writer. She writes a lot of naturalist on nature topics, and by nature I mean environmental topics. She grew up in southern Utah and lost a lot of family members to cancer. If you've never heard of the term downwinders, I'm actually going to have the students in class watch a new PBS documentary that has come out. It's 60 minutes long, but we're only going to look at about 10 minutes starting, and I put the amount down in the teacher notes here, to start at about minute 32. And it'll give you a really good foundation for what the government did in our state and kept quiet about it, and how it ended up costing so many people their lives. And Utah had such an unproportionately high number of cancer cases in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even up till today. My mother-in-law is one of those victims. She never smoked a day in her life, and she ended up contracting lung cancer. The doctors, through their research and working with her, attributed it back to these downwinders situations where she watched these atomic blast back in the 50s, and as the wind shifted and came into the Utah valleys, particularly in the southern Utah, it landed in the water and the soil. And so, anyway, it's fascinating, very well written documentary about our state that PBS just barely released. Anyway, Terry Tempus Williams lost a lot of people in her family to cancer, and so she records her story of downwinders in a narrative form. I've included it in your packet. If you are not in school today, that means you don't have a packet. I'll try to remember to upload just a copy of that essay for you so you can read it online and get your packet when you return to class. Anyway, read her essay, fabulous. And you'll be doing your homework with this essay as well. The second essay is shorter. Most of you are probably familiar with Langston Hughes, an American poet, but he also wrote some short pieces, storytelling, memoir type essays relating to his life. This is entitled Salvation. It's a story when he was 12 years old, and he's trying to get the Spirit at a church meeting. So it comes across almost humorously when the way he writes it, but the end has a chilling effect to the impact of religion in his life from this experience. So read that one as well. And so then from the two essays that you're reading, there is a soapstone handout in Canvas that I would like you to download, two of them, and answer each of these questions. Soapstone is a mnemonic device used by AP, and it helps us to analyze text, nonfiction text. So for each of these words in blue, write several sentences for each essay to get a good understanding of what the writers, both Terry Tempus Williams and Langston Hughes, did in their essays. And that will be your homework. I'm also want to show you a few examples, not too many right now, but of what you're eventually going to do with your memoir or profile. This essay, you can see, looks different than those in the past. It has more of a newspaper feel to it. So you'll write the memoir profile and turn it into a magazine spread like this one. This is an example by Melissa. And this is an example by Sabrina. Sabrina's art student. If you look closely at that, you'll see each of those letters. It's not a typewriter or a computer. She hand wrote them. Phenomenal the way she did that assignment. Here's one that's by Abby. This is a profile, but gives you an idea of what your assignment eventually will turn into for this unit. So your homework, again, is to download the two soapstone handouts, print them, and complete all of the questions, analyzing those two beautifully written memoirs for next time. So hopefully that helps, and we will see you on Thursday.